The roar of the concrete mixer was the soundtrack to the moment I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see. Sarah was wearing the red sundress I'd bought for her birthday, clinging to a man who wasn't me. It wasn't a hug. It was the kind of desperate tangle that makes your stomach turn. I'm Frank Miller. I've spent 15 years crawling through the mud and dust of construction sites. I've seen my share of dirty business, but I never thought I'd see it from my own wife. Frank, you look like you've seen a ghost, my lead carpenter, Big Jim, said, clapping me on the shoulder. I lowered the binoculars. The scene from the office building across the street was still burning in my mind. Sarah's office, her lunch break, her and some suit, all over each other. It's nothing. Let's get back to work. I buried the rage, but my hand tightened around the hammer in my grip. When I married Sarah 15 years ago, she was a sweet, idealistic teacher's college student. For a blue-collar guy like me to land her, the folks back home said I must have won the lottery. Looks like that winning ticket just went up in flames. Hey, boss, the material supplier is here. Ricky, one of the younger guys, called out. I nodded, forcing myself to focus. But my mind was stuck on a loop, my wife with another man in her office doing that. After clocking out, I went home and started dinner, just like any other day. Sarah got home at 6:30, wearing that familiar smile. Hey, honey, long day, she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I smelled a cologne that wasn't mine. You work late? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Yeah, finance is a nightmare reconciling the books, she lied, smooth as silk. I'm gonna go shower. Watching her walk toward the bathroom, I suddenly remembered 10 years ago when she first said she wanted to get a job. We just bought the house, the mortgage was killing us, and she said she wanted to help carry the load. I told her I could handle it, that I didn't want her to have to work. She insisted. She said she didn't want to turn into just some housewife. Looking back, maybe that's when the first crack appeared. At dinner, she chattered about her day at the office, her eyes never quite meeting mine. Sarah, how long have we been married? 15 years. Why the sudden trip down memory lane? No reason. Just thinking about when we first started out. She paused for a second, then smiled. Back when you were just a small-time contractor and we were living in that tiny duplex that was freezing in the winter. Yeah, you never complained then. Her smile felt stiff. I'm not complaining now, but her eyes gave her away. That night, she turned in early, claiming she was exhausted. I lay in bed listening to her breathe, remembering how she used to wait up for me, no matter how late I got home from a job. Now, it felt like she couldn't wait for me to be asleep. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She silenced it instantly, a gesture so practiced it was chilling. Who was that? I asked, pretending I'd just woken up. Spam call, she mumbled, rolling over to face away from me. In the darkness, I stared at her back, the anger in my gut churning like hot lava. 15 years of marriage, 15 years of trust, all of it meant nothing to her. The next morning, she was up earlier than usual. I've got a huge meeting today. Might be a late one, she said, applying her makeup with extra care. What time will you be home? Not sure. Don't wait up for me. Watching her get ready, looking better than she had in years, I knew she was going to see him. After she left, I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Leo, it's Frank. I need you to find someone for me. Leo Martinez and I went way back. We worked a few ugly jobs together before he got his PI license. There were some things I had to know for sure. Not to save my marriage, but to understand what a joke my life had become. Leo was faster than I expected. The next afternoon, he showed up at the site with a thick manila envelope. Frank, you sure you want to see this? Leo's expression was grim. I lit a cigarette, taking a long drag. Spit it out. The guy your wife's seeing is Ryan Vance. He's the executive VP at her firm, married with a 10-year-old son. Leo laid out a series of high-resolution photos. Sarah and this Vance guy hugging outside a hotel in Cherry Creek, kissing in his car, holding hands across a restaurant table. Every picture was a slap in the face. How long? My voice was raspy. Based on what I've dug up, at least a year. They have a regular spot, the Lovebird on the east side. They've also taken business trips together. Leo produced a copy of a hotel registration. Check this out. From last month, they used fake names. I stared at the familiar handwriting. Sarah's, signing a name I'd never seen before. She was willing to become someone else to be with this guy. Leo sighed. Frank, a lot of women. They get bored. They think the grass is greener that some other guy is more exciting, more romantic. Romantic? I laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. I break my back to provide for her, and she's out looking for romance. So what are you going to do? I've been asking myself that all day. Divorce. She'd get half of everything. 15 years of sweat and blood pissed away. Stay? I'm a simple man, but I have my pride. I flicked the cigarette, but into the dirt. Keep digging. I want to know all of his secrets. Frank, you're thinking. I'm thinking I want to make them pay. That night, just as I expected, Sarah came home late. Her hair was a little messy, her lipstick freshly applied. Good meeting? I asked, pretending to watch TV. Exhausting. So many projections to review, she said, rushing to the bathroom. I need a shower. She spent twice as long in there as usual, washing away the evidence of another man. When she came out, she went straight to bed, too tired to even make small talk. As I looked at her sleeping face, I remembered the shy girl I brought home to meet my parents 15 years ago. She was so nervous she could barely speak. This woman sleeping next to me was a stranger. The next day was Saturday. I didn't go to the site. Sarah, let's go out, do some shopping. It's been a while. She was putting on her makeup and her hand flinched. Oh, I can't today. I made plans with a friend from work. Which one? Jessica from accounting. Another lie. I knew for a fact that Jessica from accounting had quit last month. I can give you a ride. No, it's fine. We're meeting close by. I'll just drive myself. She grabbed her purse and hurried out the door. I gave her a 10-minute head start, then got in my truck and followed. She parked in front of a coffee shop on the east side. Ryan Vance was waiting for her. Through the plate glass window, I watched them settle into a corner booth. He took her hand. She was smiling, a genuine, happy smile that I hadn't seen directed at me in years. I sat in my truck, chain-smoking, the anger cold, hard knot in my stomach. So, she could still smile like that. Just not for me. 2 hours later, they left the coffee shop and drove straight to the Lovebird Inn. I didn't follow them inside. I didn't need to see that. But I waited in the parking lot across the street. I wanted to see her walk out of that man's arms and drive home to lie to my face. For hours later, she emerged. Hair fixed, lipstick perfect, looking for all the world like a woman who'd just spent the afternoon shopping with a girlfriend. She drove home, and I followed at a distance. Shopping is exhausting, she said, flopping onto the couch as she walked in the door. I'm just going to relax. She pulled out her phone and started texting, a small smile playing on her lips. I knew exactly who she was talking to. Sarah, we need to talk. She looked up, a flicker of alarm in her eyes. Talk about what? She sat up straight. What's wrong? Do you feel like we're even a couple anymore? She was silent for a long moment. Frank, is there something you want to say? No, just feels like there's a distance between us. It's probably just work stress, she said, waving it away. Things will get better. She was still trying to placate me, to manage me. Later that night, her phone buzzed again. This time, I didn't pretend to be asleep. Who's calling you this late? She clutched her phone, her knuckles white. It's just for work. Answer it. I don't mind. She shot me a look, then silenced the call. But not before I saw the caller ID. Ryan. That name, so casual, so intimate, sent a fresh wave of rage through me. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had replaced me. Over the next week, I started systematically collecting evidence. Leo planted a GPS tracker in Sarah's car and had his people staked out near her usual spots. Every night, I got a detailed report of her movements. Monday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., Lovebird Inn, Cherry Creek. Tuesday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., private room at the Capitol Grill. Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., a resort up in Evergreen. Every entry confirmed it. My wife was living a double life. By day, she was Mrs. Frank Miller. By night, she belonged to someone else. On Thursday evening, she told me she had to work late again. This time, I didn't trail her. I drove straight to her office building and waited in the parking garage. At 8 p.m., she and Ryan Vance stepped out of the elevator, laughing together. I rolled down my window, the sound of their voices cutting through the quiet garage. Ryan, I think my husband is getting suspicious, Sarah said. We'll just have to be more careful. Meet less for a while, Vance said, his arm wrapped around her waist. But I'll miss you, she cooed, leaning her head on his shoulder. I'm working on the divorce. It won't be long before we can be together out in the open. Really? I thought you said your wife would never agree to it. I have my ways, Vance chuckled, a sound that made my skin crawl. Every woman has a weakness. They got into his car and drove off, heading toward their usual spot. I sat there, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. So it wasn't just an affair. They were planning a future, and I was just an obstacle to be removed. 15 years of marriage. In her eyes, it was nothing. The next day, I had Leo do a deep dive on Ryan Vance. "Frank, this guy is bad news," Leo told me, holding a file. "Ryan Vance, 38, EVP. But he's got some side hustles." "What kind of hustles?" "Loan sharking, running high-stakes underground poker games. He's got a crew of thugs on his payroll." I was stunned. I thought Sarah was just infatuated with some rich suit. I had no idea she'd gotten involved with a gangster. "There's more," Leo said. "His wife isn't just anybody. Her father is the deputy director at the city's Department of Planning and Development, the same department that oversees our entire industry." Now it all made sense. No wonder Vance was so confident he could get a divorce. His connections ran deep, and the planning department was the one city agency you didn't want to cross. One phone call could get our site shut down. One fine could bankrupt my company. "Frank, you need to be careful with this," Leo warned. "This guy plays dirty." "So do I." I said it, but a knot of worry tightened in my stomach. It wasn't Vance I was afraid of. It was the 50-odd guys on my crew who depended on me for a paycheck. That evening, Sarah, for the first time in months, struck up a conversation with me. "Honey, how are things at the site? Everything running smoothly?" She hadn't asked about my work in ages. "It's fine. Why the sudden interest?" "No reason, just care about you," she said, her smile looking forced. "So, you guys have any big project coming up?" My internal alarms went off. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, I just heard from a colleague that the city is cracking down on building regulations. A lot of sites are getting audited." My blood ran cold. Was Vance using her to get information on my business? We run a tight ship. We got nothing to hide. "Oh, good," she said, visibly relieved. "I was just worried about you." Watching her feign concern made me sick. This wasn't just a betrayal anymore. This was a conspiracy. That night, her phone rang again. This time she took the call on a balcony, her voice a low whisper. I crept closer, just enough to overhear. "He doesn't suspect a thing." "Yes, the company does have a couple of major bids in." "Okay, I'll see what I can find out." She was feeding him information about my company. I backed away silently, the rage inside me reaching a boiling point. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was trying to ruin me. After 15 years, this is what she had become. The next day, I made a decision. If she wanted to play this game, I'd play to win. I told Leo to ramp up the surveillance, to get video of every single one of their meetings. At the same time, I started my own investigation into Ryan Vance's illegal businesses. A guy like that, who lives in the shadows, always has something to hide. Chapter 4 on the weekend, Sarah announced she was going to a team-building brunch with colleagues. This time, I didn't follow her. I went somewhere else. Ryan Vance's home. They were off at their hotel, which meant his wife was almost certainly home. I needed to meet this woman. I needed to know if she was as clueless as I had been. Vance lived in a luxury condo building in Lodo. I found his unit number and went up. A woman in her late 30s with a poised, elegant look answered the door. "Can I help you? Are you Mrs. Vance?" "Yes. And you are?" "My name is Frank Miller. I think we need to talk." She hesitated, then sized me up. "Please come in." The apartment was opulent, with a large family portrait hanging in the living room. In the photo, Ryan Vance looked like the perfect husband and father. "Mr. Miller, what is this about?" she asked. I opened my briefcase and took out the photos Leo had given me. "Mrs. Vance, I'm sorry to have to show you these, but I believe you have a right to know the truth." She took the stack of photos. Her face went pale as she flipped through them. Her husband, kissing my wife. "When were these taken?" Her voice trembled. "Within the last month," I said, taking a seat. "You didn't know?" Tears welled in her eyes as she looked at each damning photo. I knew something was wrong. The late nights, the constant business trips. "The woman in those pictures is my wife. We've been married for 15 years. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a shared pain. 15 years. Yes, I just found out myself. We sat there in her lavish living room, two strangers united by betrayal. The silence was heavy. "What are you going to do, Mr. Miller?" she asked, wiping her tears away. I haven't decided yet, but I'm not going to let them get away with it. Neither am I, she said, her gaze turning from hurt to hard steel. He thinks I'm a fool. The truth is, I've been gathering my own evidence for a while now. What kind of evidence? She went to a home office and returned with a thick binder. This contains proof of all his illegal activities, she explained. The loan sharking, the underground poker games, and a detailed ledger of bribes he's paid out. I was floored. Ryan Vance wasn't just a cheat. He was a full-blown criminal. Why haven't you gone to the police? Because of my father, she said with a bitter laugh. He's a deputy director at the planning department. If Ryan's criminal enterprise becomes public, my father will be implicated in the scandal. But things are different now, I said, pointing to the photos. He betrayed you. You don't owe him your protection anymore. She was quiet for a long time, then nodded. You're right. We spent the next hour mapping out a plan. She would continue to act as if she knew nothing. I would do the same. But behind the scenes, we would gather more ammunition, preparing to take them both down at once. When I got home, Sarah wasn't back yet. I sat on the couch and waited, feeling calmer than I had in weeks. Now that I knew the whole truth, now that I had an ally, it was no longer a question of if, but when. She finally walked in at 10 p.m. Her hair was messy, her lipstick smudged. How was brunch? I asked casually. It was fine. A little long, she said with a yawn. I'm beat. Go in to shower. I watched her walk away and let out a cold, quiet laugh. She thought she was a master of deception, but every move she made was a confession. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Leo. Change of plans. Meet me tomorrow. The next day, Leo listened intently as I laid out the new strategy at the site. Damn, Frank. You lucked out, finding his wife like that. It wasn't luck, Leo. It was inevitable, I said, lighting a cigarette. A guy like Vance makes enemies everywhere he goes. So what's the play now? Keep eyes on them. And I need you to start tracing Vance's cash flow. I want to know where every dirty dollar goes. What's the end game here? I'm going to ruin him. Leo looked at me, a flicker of concern in his eyes. You've changed, man. Yeah, I have, I said, exhaling a cloud of smoke. You get betrayed for 15 years. You either break or you get harder. I'm not breaking. That afternoon, I got a text from Eleanor Vance. They're meeting at their usual spot tonight. Want to go watch the show? I thought for a moment, then typed back, no, photos will be enough. I had no desire to see their sordid affair with my own eyes again. I just wanted it to be over. As evening approached, Sarah started her makeup ritual. Working late again, I asked, it's a madhouse. The lies came so easily to her now. Okay, don't work too hard. Get home safe. She paused, seemingly surprised by my gentle tone. I will, she said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. You get some rest, too. As she walked out the door, I remembered the early days of our marriage. Every kiss had been real. Now it was just another part of the performance. Chapter 5, the breaking point, came faster than I could have imagined. The next morning, Leo burst onto the construction site, his face pale. Frank, you're not going to believe this. What's wrong? Ryan Vance was attacked last night. He's in the hospital. The cigarette nearly fell from my lips. What happened? Got jumped by a couple of guys with bats, Leo said, lowering his voice. Word on the street is it's related to his loan sharking business. Someone couldn't pay up and decided to send a message. My first thought was of Sarah. Sure enough, a quick call to her office confirmed she called in, citing a family emergency. I knew exactly where she was. Leo, get to the hospital. Find out what's going on. On it, boss. An hour later, Leo called back. Vance is in bad shape. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding. He's in surgery now. Your wife is in the waiting room, crying her eyes out, crying harder than his actual wife, who's also here. The irony was so thick I could taste it. She was falling apart for another man, a man she'd known for a year, while she'd never shed a tear for the stress my job put me under for 15. The cops are here too, Leo continued. They're investigating it as an attempted murder. And Frank, the doctors are talking about permanent damage. He might never walk again. The news was a gut punch. As much as I hated Vance, I never wanted this. But if fate had decided to step in, I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Sarah came home late that afternoon. Her eyes were red and swollen. Sarah, what happened? You look terrible, I said, feigning concern. There was an accident at work, she choked out. A colleague he was hurt. How bad? It's bad, she whispered, collapsing onto the couch and burying her face in her hands. I've never seen so much blood. I felt nothing. No pity, no sympathy. Her grief was for him, not for us. Had she ever considered how I would feel? Should we go to the hospital? She looked up, startled. You'd go with me? Of course. Your colleague is hurt. It's the right thing to do. Panic flashed in her eyes. No, it's fine. They aren't allowing visitors right now. All right then, I said, sitting next to her. Don't stress yourself out too much. I'm sure he'll be okay. She leaned against my shoulder, her body trembling. It was the first time in a long time she had shown any kind of dependence on me. Too little, too late. For the next few days, Sarah spent almost all her time at the hospital. Leo's reports confirmed she was keeping a constant vigil by Vance's bedside. Eleanor Vance, on the other hand, was barely there. On the fourth night, Sarah finally dragged herself home. She was a wreck. Gone. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair a mess. How is he? I asked. He's in the ICU, she mumbled. The doctors say it's not looking good. Is his life in danger? She nodded, and fresh tears began to fall. Watching her mourn for him, my last shred of pity evaporated, replaced by cold, hard anger. But on the surface, I remained the supportive husband. There's nothing we can do. It was a tragic accident. It wasn't an accident, she suddenly blurted out. Someone did this to him on purpose. What do you mean? She hesitated. He made some enemies. People who wanted to hurt him. What kind of people? I don't really know. Business rivals, I think. She was still covering for him, protecting his dark secrets from me. That sealed it. She was no longer on my side. She was on his. The next day, Eleanor Vance called me. Mr. Miller, we need to talk. When? Now, if you're free. We met at a quiet coffee shop. She looked tired, but her eyes held a new, steely resolve. Frank, she said, using my first name, I've made a decision. I want to work with you. What does that mean? She slid a document across the table. These are divorce papers. I've already signed them. You're filing now? Yes. While he's lying helpless in that hospital bed, I'm liquidating our assets, she said, her voice laced with ice. He wanted a war. He's going to get one. What do you need from me? I need you to act as a witness, to testify that these assets were acquired through my family inheritance, not his business. I looked at the documents. She was brilliant. While Vance was incapacitated, she was legally moving everything into her name. By the time he recovered, he'd be broke. I'll sign, I said. Thank you, she replied, putting the papers away. By the way, when are you planning to confront your wife? Soon, I said, sipping my coffee. I'm going to let her play the part of the grieving lover for a few more days. That woman is despicable, Eleanor spat. The gall of her, pretending to be so innocent while she destroys a family. She'll get what she deserves. After we parted, I drove to the hospital. I wanted to see Vance's condition for myself, and I wanted to see how long Sarah could keep up her charade. Outside the ICU, Sarah was slumped in a chair, staring into space. She didn't see me. I stood down the hall, watching her. Her eyes were hollow, her expression vacant. She had thrown her entire life away for a man who was about to have nothing. I didn't know whether to pity her or despise her. Chapter 6. 3 days after Ryan Vance woke up, Sarah came home. She looked like a ghost, her eyes empty, her movements slow and robotic. Your colleague is awake? I asked. She looked at me, a despair in her eyes I had never seen before. He's awake, but she trailed off. It's not good. What's wrong? He's paralyzed from the waist down. The news landed with a thud. I had wished for Vance's downfall, but I hadn't expected this. Seeing Sarah's raw agony, I felt a strange absence of the victory I thought I would. After all, she was still the woman I had loved for 15 years. These things happen, I said, sitting beside her. You can't blame yourself. Suddenly, she threw her arms around me, holding on like she was drowning. Frank, can we move away? Move? Why? I can't be in this city anymore. There are too many bad memories here. Her request stunned me. Was she trying to start over with me? Or was she just trying to run away? Sarah, what really happened? She just trembled in my arms, offering no answer. The next day, Leo filled in the blanks. Frank, Ryan Vance is finished, he said. What do you mean? His wife cleaned him out while he was in a coma. Transferred every last cent. He woke up to find out he's broke. And to top it off, she handed over all the evidence of his illegal businesses to the DA. The cops are building a case. He'll go from the hospital straight to a jail cell. The takedown was more complete than I could have orchestrated. Vance had lost his health, his wealth, and his freedom. Does Sarah know all this? She must know some of it, I said, thinking of her desperate plea to move. No wonder she wants to run. So it's time, right, Frank? Time to drop the hammer? I nodded. It's time to end this. That evening, I laid everything out on the coffee table. The photos, the audio recordings, the hotel records, bank statements, and the file on Vance's criminal activities. When Sarah walked in and saw the display, the color drained from her face. Frank, what is all this? What do you think it is? I lit a cigarette. Sarah, let's talk. She sank onto the opposite couch, wringing her hands. When did you find out? She whispered. A month ago. Why didn't you say anything? I wanted to see how long you could keep up the act, I said, smoke curling from my lips. Turns out, you're a better actress than I thought. She stared at the floor, unable to speak. Tell me why, Sarah? Why did you betray me? It was a long time before she answered. I don't know. You don't know. I scoffed. You were with him for over a year, and you don't know. I didn't think you'd find out. So that makes it okay. She looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. Frank, I'm so sorry. Sorry. I stood up, looming over her. You cheated on me. You conspired with him to ruin my business. And now you think sorry fixes it. I didn't try to ruin you. No. I held up a bank statement. This is my company's account information. You gave it to him. She stared at the paper, speechless. Sarah, what did our 15 years of marriage mean to you? Anything. She began to sob, deep, gut-wrenching sobs. But my heart was a block of ice. Her tears meant nothing to me now. Now your lover is a broke, paralyzed criminal who's going to prison. What's your plan? I don't know, she cried. I really don't know. Well, I do. I pulled a document from my back pocket and tossed it on the table. Sign this. We're done. She stared at the divorce papers, her sobs growing louder. Frank, can't you give me another chance? A chance? I laughed, a cold, empty sound. I gave you 15 years of chances. Look what you did with them. I can change. We can start over. It's too late. I placed a pen in front of her. Sign it. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen. I don't want any of the assets. You're not entitled to any. She signed her name, each stroke a painful, shaky line. When she was done, she looked up at me. Frank, do you hate me? No, I said, folding the papers. I just feel sorry for you. Sorry for me? You threw away your whole life for a piece of trash. She started crying again, but I was done listening. Be out of here by tomorrow. I walked into my home office with the signed papers, leaving her alone with the ruins of our life. 15 years, over in a single night. Chapter 7, the next morning, Sarah packed her bags. She managed to fit her life into 2 suitcases, leaving everything else behind. Frank, I'm leaving, she said, standing at the door for one last look at the home we had built together. Goodbye, Sarah, I said, not looking up from my coffee. She dragged her suitcases out the door, the sound of the wheels echoing down the hallway until they faded to silence. I sat on the couch, the sudden emptiness of the house pressing in on me. For the first time in 15 years, I was truly alone. There were no more lies, no more performances, no more betrayal. Just a profound, deafening quiet. That afternoon, Leo came by to check on me. You doing okay, man? Never better, I said, pouring him a beer. I'm finally free. You're not sad at all? Sad about what? A woman who betrayed me. I'm not a masochist. Leo looked at me, hesitating. Say what's on your mind. It's just, you've changed a lot, Frank. How so? You used to be a pretty easygoing guy. Now, you're cold. I smiled without humor. Spend 15 years being played for a fool and see how warm you feel. Fair enough, he sighed. By the way, you know where your ex is? Don't know, don't care. She's at the hospital, looking after Vance. The news didn't surprise me. Even now, she was clinging to that toxic, doomed love. Let her, I said, taking a drag from my cigarette. It's not my problem anymore. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello, is this Mr. Frank Miller? This is he. This is Dr. Evans from Denver General. Your ex-wife, Sarah Miller, was brought into our emergency room. I frowned. What's wrong? She collapsed. We couldn't reach any other family, and your number was listed as her emergency contact. We're divorced, I stated flatly. I understand, sir, but you're still the only contact we have. I thought about hanging up, but 15 years of history wasn't so easy to erase. I decided to go, not for her, but for the man I used to be. I found her in an ER cubicle. She was lying on a gurney, looking terrifyingly pale and thin, a ghost of the woman I once knew. Doctor, what happened to her? Severe malnutrition and dehydration. She's also suffering from acute depression, the doctor said, reading from a chart. When was the last time she had a proper meal? I had no answer. Since the divorce, I hadn't given her second thought. She was delirious when she came in, the doctor added, kept apologizing over and over. Looking at her now, so broken and frail, I felt a flicker of something. Not love, but a dull, aching pity. She had done a terrible thing, but she was still human. Does she need to be admitted? We'd recommend keeping her for a few days of observation and a psychiatric evaluation. I handled the paperwork and then sat by her bed, waiting for her to wake up. 2 hours later, her eyes fluttered open. She saw me and froze, before tears started streaming down her face. Frank, why are you here? The hospital called me. I thought you never wanted to see me again. I thought so too, I admitted, taking in her ravaged appearance. But seeing you like this, it still hurts. That made her cry harder. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing. It doesn't change anything. I know I messed up, Frank. I regret everything. Regret doesn't undo the past. I sighed. She tried to sit up, but was too weak. You should take care of yourself, I said, standing to leave. I'm going. Don't go, she whispered, her hand weakly grabbing my arm. Please just stay for a little while. I looked at her pleading eyes and, against my better judgment, sat back down. Sarah, why would you let yourself get like this? Because I lost the most important thing in my life. Ryan Vance. She shook her head. It's too late for that kind of talk. I know it's late, but I have to say it, she said, her grip tightening. Frank, this whole time, I've been thinking, and I finally realized what I threw away. What did you throw away? A man who truly loved me, she sobbed. A real home. I destroyed it all for someone who was never worth it. I looked at her, my heart a confusing mix of old wounds and new pity. If she had said these words a month ago, maybe things could have been different. But now, the damage was done. Sarah, some mistakes can't be fixed. I know. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, she said, letting go of my hand. I just wanted you to know that meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me, and losing you was the stupidest. We sat in silence as the afternoon sun faded outside the window, casting long shadows across the room. The love, the hate, the 15 years of our life together. It all seemed to be dissolving into the twilight. Chapter 8. I stayed at the hospital with Sarah for 2 days, watching as she slowly regained some strength. The doctors confirmed it was a psychological breakdown, not a physical illness. She needed time and therapy. Frank, do you still hate me? She asked on the 3rd morning. No, I answered honestly. Why not? Hating someone takes too much energy. I'm done wasting it on you. She nodded, a look of relief washing over her face. Good. The thought of you hating me forever was the worst part. What are your plans now? I asked. I'm gonna leave Denver. Start over somewhere no one knows me. That sounds like a good idea. What about you? Me? I shrugged. Keep working. Keep living. Will you get married again? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. A flicker of sadness crossed her face before she hid it. Well, if you do, will you let me know? Why? I'd like to wish you well. I looked at her, seeing a glimmer of the woman she used to be, or perhaps the woman she was becoming. The selfishness and deceit were gone, replaced by a hard-won sincerity. It was just a shame it had come at such a high cost. Sure, Sarah, if that day ever comes. That afternoon, I prepared to leave for good. I'm heading out, Sarah. Thank you for staying with me these past few days. Don't mention it. I was at the door when she called my name one last time. Frank, yeah, if I could turn back time, I never would have made those stupid mistakes. I didn't answer. I just gave a slight nod and walked out. Some things are said to make others feel better, and some are said to make ourselves feel better. But time only moves in one direction. That's the hard truth of it. A month later, I heard that Sarah had left the city. No one knew where she went. It was as if she had vanished from my life completely. Ryan Vance was sentenced to 10 years in prison. His illegal businesses were shut down. Eleanor Vance took their son, reverted to her maiden name, and moved out of state. The whole ugly saga was finally over. My life returned to its simple rhythm. Work during the day, home at night, weekends off. It was quiet, peaceful. No lies, no betrayal. A little lonely, but honest. Leo kept trying to set me up. Frank, you're only 40. You're still a young man. I'm not in a rush, Leo. You're not still hung up on your ex, are you? No, I just think I'm better off alone. That's bull. Everybody needs somebody. Maybe he was right, but the thought of trusting someone like that again terrified me. Once was enough. 6 months later, I met a woman on the job site. She was the new safety inspector, mid-30s, divorced with a 10-year-old daughter. Mr. Miller, hi. I'm Grace Thompson, the new safety lead. Nice to meet you. Let me know if you need anything. Over the next few weeks, I discovered she was professional, diligent, and smart. More importantly, she never pried into my personal life or tried to get too close. The comfortable distance between us was a relief. Have a good night, Frank. You too, Grace. Stay safe. Our conversations were simple, but there was an unspoken ease to them. One evening, I saw her waiting for the bus outside the site. I can give you a ride, I offered. Oh, you don't have to do that. It's on my way. She hesitated, then climbed into my truck. We talked about work on the drive. How long have you been in this business, Frank? 20 years. You must have seen a lot of accidents then. Too many. That's why safety is everything. I feel the same way, she said earnestly. Every one of these workers has a family to go home to. Her words resonated with me. This was a woman who understood responsibility, unlike some people I knew. How old is your daughter? I asked. 10. She's in 4th grade. It can't be easy raising a kid on your own. It's not, but we manage, she said with a small smile. Honestly, being on our own is better. At least this way, we don't get hurt. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. She had been through it too. Yeah, I said, a sense of understanding passing between us. Being on your own is better. We looked at each other and smiled, a silent acknowledgement of our shared scars. Chapter 9. 3 months after we met, Grace and I had settled into a comfortable rhythm. It wasn't romance. It was more like an unspoken alliance between two people who understood what it meant to be broken. Frank, it's my daughter's birthday today, she said one afternoon. I was wondering if you'd like to join us for dinner. It was the first time she'd invited me into her personal life. Are you sure I wouldn't be intruding? Not at all. Chloe has been dying to meet you. She knows about me. I told her about the nice man at work who always makes sure everyone is safe. I chuckled at being called the nice man, but it felt good. That evening, I picked up a birthday cake and a gift for her daughter and went to their apartment. A bright-eyed little girl who was the spitting image of Grace opened the door. Mom, the nice man is here, she yelled. Grace emerged from the kitchen, wearing an apron, a slight blush on her cheeks. Frank, come on in. Their apartment was small but cozy and immaculately clean. The walls were covered in Chloe's drawings and award certificates. Thank you for the presents, sir, Chloe said politely. You're welcome. Happy birthday. Dinner was simple but delicious. Grace was a great cook, and Chloe was a sweet, well-behaved kid. The warmth of their little family reminded me of a time long ago when Sarah and I had talked about having children. We never did, for one reason or another. Now, I suspected her heart was already elsewhere even then. Do you have any kids, Frank? Chloe asked with childhood innocence. Grace immediately shushed her. Chloe, you don't ask people that. It's okay, I said, ruffling the girl's hair. No, I don't have any kids. Why not? I paused. I guess the timing was never right. Chloe nodded, as if that made perfect sense. After dinner, while Chloe did her homework, I helped Grace with the dishes. I'm sorry about her questions, Grace said. Don't be. Kids are curious. She never really knew her father, so she gets attached to positive male figures. She's a great kid. She is. I think everything she went through forced her to grow up a little too fast. We stood side by side at the sink, the domesticity of the moment feeling both strange and comforting. Grace, your ex-husband. I began, unsure if I was crossing a line. He cheated on me, she said, her voice even, with his assistant. And you divorced him? Immediately. I don't tolerate betrayal. Her words echoed my own experience. Me neither. I said quietly. She stopped washing and turned to look at me. You too. Yeah. My divorce was finalized about 6 months ago. A silent understanding passed between us. We were both survivors of the same kind of war. So, I guess we're in the same boat, she said with a wry smile. Looks like it. Well then, maybe we should help each other stay afloat, she said, half joking. How do we do that? By being friends. By having each other's backs. I like the sound of that. From that day on, we started spending more time together. We'd grab dinner after work, or I'd take Chloe and her to the park on weekends. We were careful, never blurring the lines of our friendship, but the companionship was a balm on a wound I didn't realize was still so raw. One time, Chloe got sick and Grace had to take her to the hospital. I met them there after my shift. Uncle Frank, you came, Chloe said from her hospital bed, her face pale. Of course. Just wanted to see how you were doing, I said, feeling her forehead. Fever's down. Grace was sitting by the bed, looking exhausted. You should go home and get some rest, I told her. I can stay with her. I'm fine. I'm her mother, and you're also exhausted. We ended up taking shifts watching over Chloe until she was discharged. In that hospital room, under the hum of fluorescent lights, it struck me that we felt like a family, not bound by passion, but by a shared sense of care and responsibility. Maybe this was the new life I was meant to have. Chapter 10, just before Christmas, Grace was getting ready to take Chloe to her hometown for the holidays. Merry Christmas, Frank, she said as they were leaving. You too. Travel safe. And thank you for everything you've done for us lately. Of course. We're friends. She smiled, a hint of something more in her eyes. Is that all? What do you mean? If you don't have other plans, we'd love for you to come with us. The invitation surprised me. I wouldn't want to impose. It's no imposition. Chloe really wants you to come. I glanced at Chloe, who was looking at me with wide, hopeful eyes. Okay, I heard myself say. I'll come. Grace's hometown was a small, quiet town in eastern Colorado, the kind of place where everyone knows each other. Her parents were warm and welcoming. They were curious about me, but didn't press for details. Chloe's father was never responsible. Grace's mother told me in confidence one evening. Left them without a second thought. I'm glad she's met a good man like you. Ma'am, we're just friends. Friendship is a good place to start, she said with a knowing smile. Over the next few days, I was enveloped in a kind of family warmth I hadn't felt in years. We decorated the tree, helped her mom with Christmas dinner, and I taught Chloe how to build a proper snowman. It all felt so natural, so right? Uncle Frank, are you coming back next year? Chloe asked on Christmas Eve. If you'll have me. Of course we will, she chirped. I want you to be here with us always. Her innocent words warmed my heart. This child made me feel needed in a way I never had before. I'll always be here for you, I promised, patting her head. Grace was watching us, her eyes shining with a soft, gentle light. In that moment, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I had found a new home. When we returned to Denver after the new year, our bond was stronger. It wasn't the fiery passion of a new romance, but the quiet, steady intimacy of family. Frank, can I talk to you about something? Grace asked me one day. Of course. I'm thinking about finding a new job, something closer to Chloe's school. Why the change? The commute is wearing her out, and I want to be able to spend more time with her. That makes sense, I said, fully supporting her. Do you need any help with the job search? Actually, I was hoping you might know someone. Consider it done. I made a few calls, and within a week, found her a position at a firm just 2 blocks from Chloe's school. Thank you so much, she said, her voice thick with gratitude. How can I ever repay you? You don't have to. We're friends. Are we just friends, Frank? She asked, her gaze direct. The question hung in the air between us. What do you think? I think we're more than friends, she said softly. But we're not quite lovers, either. Then what are we? Family, she said. We feel like a family. I nodded. Yeah, we do. So, she took a deep breath. Would you be interested in making it official? My heart skipped a beat. What are you proposing? I'm proposing marriage, Frank, she said, her voice steady and serious. Not for passion, but for partnership. I need a man I can rely on. Chloe needs a father, and you need a family that won't let you down. Her proposal was the most logical, unromantic thing I had ever heard, and it made perfect sense. There were no grand declarations of love, just a clear-eyed understanding of what we both needed. I need to think about it, I said. Of course. Take your time. I spent the whole night thinking. Marrying Grace meant having a real home again, a wonderful daughter, a partner I could trust. It meant giving up the simple, solitary life I had grown accustomed to. But that life was lonely, and I was tired of being lonely. The next day, I gave her my answer. Yes. A radiant smile spread across her face. So, when should we go to the courthouse? Whenever you want. How about tomorrow? So soon. I've waited long enough for a complete family, she said. Our wedding was a simple affair at the city courthouse. No frills, no fancy reception, just our closest friends and family. Leo was my best man. Frank, you better not mess this one up, he joked. I won't. She seems like a good one. Way better than your ex. They're different, I said, watching Grace talk with Chloe. She would never betray me. How can you be so sure? Because she's been there, I said. She knows exactly how much it hurts. After the ceremony, we moved into a new house. A 3-bedroom with a small yard for Chloe to play in. It was a blank slate, the perfect place for our new beginning. Life after the wedding was calm and fulfilling. I'd drop Chloe off at school in the morning. Grace would head to her new job, and I'd go to mine. In the evenings, we'd cook dinner together, watch a movie, and help Chloe with her homework. We were family. Dad, did you have kids before me? Chloe asked one night. Since the wedding, she had started calling me Dad. Nope, you're my first, and you'll stay with me forever. You bet, I said, pulling her into a hug. I'll be here until you're all grown up. And after that, even after that, dads are forever. She giggled and hugged me tight. In that moment, I felt a kind of pure, uncomplicated happiness I'd never known with Sarah. You two are 2 peas in a pod, Grace said, smiling from the doorway. How so? You're both gentle souls, and you both have so much integrity. Thank you for the compliment, I said. It's not a compliment. It's the truth, she said, sitting beside me. Frank, thank you for giving us a home. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. What for? For making me believe in family again. We smiled at each other as Chloe dozed off in my arms that I realized that all the pain of the past had been worth it. If Sarah hadn't betrayed me, I never would have met Grace and Chloe. If I hadn't been broken, I wouldn't be able to appreciate being whole. It was, I suppose, just the way life worked. 6 months later, Grace was pregnant. Are you serious? I asked, spinning her around when she told me the news. Careful. I'm fragile now, she laughed. Sorry, I'm so happy. Me too. When Chloe found out she was going to be a big sister, she was over the moon. Dad, can I help take care of the baby? Of course. You're the big sister now. I'm going to be the best big sister ever. The impending arrival of our new baby bound our family even tighter. I doted on Grace, making sure she had everything she needed. You treat me so well, Frank, she'd say. You're the most important person in my life. You deserve it. More important than Chloe, she'd tease. You're all my whole world, I'd say, kissing her forehead. When Grace was 8 months pregnant, we had an unexpected encounter. We were at the hospital for a checkup when I saw a familiar face in the hallway of the maternity ward. It was Sarah. She was pregnant too. Our eyes met, and we both froze. Frank? She said, her voice a whisper of disbelief. Her gaze shifted to Grace and her swollen belly. Hello, Sarah, I said calmly. You too, she stammered, her face pale. We're married, I said, putting a protective arm around Grace. Sarah was silent for a long moment before a sad smile touched her lips. Congratulations. Thank you, Grace said politely. Are you expecting as well? Yes, Sarah said, placing a hand on her own stomach. 6 months along. And the father? I couldn't help but ask. A good man, she said, a new kind of peace in her eyes. He knows about my past and loves me anyway. That's good to hear. The hallway felt charged with years of unspoken history. Frank, could I have a quick word with you, alone? Sarah asked. I looked at Grace, who gave me a reassuring nod. We stepped aside. You look happy, Sarah said. I am. She's a good woman. Better than me. She's different. Frank, I wanted to thank you. For what? For not destroying me, she said, her eyes glistening. For letting me go. If I hadn't hit rock bottom, I never would have learned what real love is. You know now. I do, she nodded. It isn't about drama or passion. It's about partnership, responsibility, and quiet support. I'm glad you figured that out. My husband now. He's a lot like you. Simple, dependable. She smiled. He's a good man. Then I'm happy for you, Sarah. I really am sorry for everything. It's in the past, I said, meaning it. Go live your life. You too, Frank. I rejoined Grace, and we continued down the hall. What did she say? Grace asked. She apologized, and she wished us well. Do you still hate her? Not anymore, I said, taking Grace's hand in mine. All I have room for now is loving you. Grace's smile was all the answer I needed. We walked on, leaving the ghosts of the past behind us. The woman who had caused me so much pain was now just a footnote in my story. My real story was here, with Grace, with Chloe, and with the baby who was on his way. 2 months later, our son was born. A healthy, 7-pound boy with a surprisingly loud cry. Dad, he's so tiny, Chloe whispered, peering into the hospital bassinet. You were that small once, too, Grace said, smiling weakly from the bed. I held my son, a wave of emotion so powerful it almost knocked me over. This was my boy, my own flesh and blood. What's his name? Chloe asked. Mason, I said. Mason Frank Miller. Hi, Mason. I'm your big sister, Chloe, she said, gently touching his tiny hand. Watching them, I felt a sense of completeness I had never known. At his 1-month party, Leo, who'd had a bit too much to drink, threw his arm around me. Frank, my man, you look genuinely happy. I am, Leo. I really am. I think about you 2 years ago, a total wreck, and now look at you. It's night and day. That's life, I guess. Full of ups and downs. The key is finding the right person, he said, nodding toward Grace, who was effortlessly charming our guests. She's a keeper. I know. Our home was filled with the happy chaos a new baby brings. Chloe adored her little brother, and Grace, though tired, was a natural mother. Every day, I came home from work to this beautiful, noisy, perfect life, and I felt nothing but gratitude. Frank, do you have any regrets? Grace asked me late one night. About what? Marrying me. Starting a family so quickly. Why would I regret it? Because we didn't marry for love. So what? I said, taking her hand. Love isn't the only thing that makes a marriage work. What else is there? Trust, companionship, respect, and a shared future, I said, looking into her eyes. We have all of that, but we don't have that initial spark. Sparks fade. This, I said, gesturing around our quiet home, this lasts. She thought for a moment, then nodded. You're right. Besides, I added, who says there's no love here? Is there? I know there's on my end. I said seriously. I love you, Grace. It's not the blind, foolish love of my youth. It's a steady, quiet love. A grown-up love. Tears welled in her eyes. I love you too. Then that's all that matters. We held each other, secure in the warmth of a love we had built, not just fallen into. A year later, we bought a bigger house with a garden and a porch. There was a room for Chloe, a nursery for Mason, and a study for me. On the day we moved in, I stood on the porch, looking out at the city skyline. This house held no ghosts. It was a new beginning. What are you thinking about? Grace asked, coming out with Mason on her hip. About our future. And what's it look like? Ordinary, I said, wrapping my arms around them. And wonderful. Chloe will grow up. Mason will go to school, and we'll grow old together. It sounds perfect. It is. I suddenly remembered a quote I'd read somewhere. True happiness isn't about getting what you want, but about loving what you have. And what did I have? A wife I trusted, 2 beautiful children, and a home filled with warmth. It was more than enough. As the sun began to set, the 4 of us stood on the porch, a complete family. Dad, look! That cloud looks like a puppy, Chloe said, pointing at the sky. Mason babbled in Grace's arms. Grace leaned her head on my shoulder, a contented smile on her face. This was my life now. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. The betrayal and the pain were in the past. All that mattered now were the people standing here with me. My name is Frank Miller. I'm 42 years old. I'm a construction supervisor who was betrayed, but who found a second chance. Today, I'm a husband, a father, and a happy man. My story is over, but my life is just beginning.